And we are live at the studios of Esperance Media here in beautiful Edmonds, Washington. He's Michael Knight. I'm New York Vinnie. And this is Mikey and Vinnie Take on the World for Friday morning.
It's a Freaky Friday. I wonder if we can say anything that hasn't already been said. We're going to try.
I don't know, Michael. You saw the same thing I saw last night, I'm sure.
It was, I had a visceral, tragic reaction to it. As soon as it started, something was wrong. It was not right from the get go. Coming out of the box, it wasn't right,
Yeah,
and it got
yeah.
worse.
It's awful hard to. I mean,
Hard to be
frankly, I
optimistic.
could. There's nothing I could look last night and say, well, that was the good part of it.
Well, that's what's strange about the talking points from this morning. All the Democrats are saying, well, he had a rough start, but he got much better and he was good at the end. And that's just simply not the case.
He couldn't complete his closing statement.
He couldn't complete a sentence, pick any sentence, pick any comment. It just bumbled off into the dark. And
Yeah,
it's as if the fact that he couldn't talk was a problem, but the fact that he couldn't listen to Trump and make comments that were germane to the lies that he was telling was just a giveaway.
you, you were just. I was as I sat there and watched it. My heart sank. I
Yeah,
mean, I had so many different emotions going through me. First of all, I like Biden. So to see somebody on that stage against that piece of crap that he's up there against um, get beat up, and let's face it, I don't know if I want to give Trump credit for this or not, but I think Trump also sensed the moment too, in that he didn't go full bore beat up on him. He said some things, and that nothing that he said was true, but he seemed Trump. Now I don't know. Maybe there was something going on with Trump too,
Trump
because he
seemed
didn't
to
seem.
be like in another world. He didn't seem to
Yeah,
be
it was
reacting
just.
to
It
Biden
was
at all.
all. It just was
Disconnected.
all. It was like it was in a bizarro world, man. It was like it
Yeah,
wasn't of this earth.
yeah, yeah.
And I would love to be able to chalk it up to a bad night, or the heat wasn't on, or somebody had injected angel dust into the ventilating system,
They
or
do
or
that a lot.
something.
They do that at Georgia Tech. It's
But
considered a compliment.
yeah, there's nothing that you can do or say that's going to make me look at that and feel any better about it. Um,
It was a surprise how poorly he was organized in his thoughts, how far away he seemed, how unresponsive to the attacks that were coming to him, how unable to put together his thoughts. And Vinny, they had no notes. What was he looking at? He was looking down all the time. He was
well, he
focusing
seemed
on
to be
something that
writing
wasn't there.
things at times. It appeared to me that he
Well,
was writing a few things down. I
the
don't know what that
phrase
was.
the phrases that he repeated over and over again are by the way. The idea, meaning the very idea of you saying that the Supreme Court is legitimate, the very idea, he said it over and over again, the idea. And he kept trying to enumerate things, number one, number two, number three, but he would sometimes do number one and never have a number two.
Yeah.
The the idea that he was at Camp David and preparing for this doesn't seem right. The very guys who insisted that he do this debate were his people. They debated earlier than ever before. It was Biden's suggestion. It was Biden's rules that the CNN chiefly adopted with some of their own.
Yeah.
It was Biden's insistence that the date be early. His team did not prepare him. He was not ready to go. They must have known driving to the event that he was not on, that he was having a bad day, that it wasn't going to work. This idea that he had a cold or a sore throat. Well, when he went to the post party, it looked like Joe Biden again. What happened in between?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Uh,
looking at him. He's out at some event now, and he's looking like Joe Biden. Um, I haven't heard him speak yet, but
but for the game, when the Mets have to win and they can't win, then the opportunity is lost, and the loser does not get to frame the way that he wants to be viewed. This was a loss that was unforced. They didn't have to do it. They forced Trump into it, and he agreed to the rules. The rules, by the way, worked. The idea of the mic being off. The
yeah,
idea of
I thought it was. I mean, I had no fault with the format of the. I'm just listening. I'm just listening to hear, and he sounds like Joe Biden. So that leads me to believe one of two things: that the debate should be held at 9 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
or that
instead of
there's
9 o'clock at
probably
night.
some truth to the rumor that they have been giving him something to pump him up.
Well, why would you not give it to him then on the night of the biggest debate?
Well, that's that. I mean, did you think that Trump was going to pull out a pea cup, make him pee in it on stage? I mean, yeah. Did you forget it? What was
the people around him are living in a negative bubble. I know Trump has people around him that say what he wants to hear, but who is telling Biden the truth this morning? Because the people who write the columns for the New York Times, talk on television professionally, make comments as experts in their field, are all saying the Democrats have to at least consider not running this candidate. His performance was so off the chart bad, they have to consider another choice. Now that's about as negative as it'll get. Name another president that's had that said about him while he's running for the president 130 days from the election. I can't
Nixon?
think
The
of
only one I could think of, and even they stuck with him. Yeah, it was an hour and a half of sound bites for every Trump commercial up until the election. I mean, you know that there's some guy in a room somewhere this morning chopping that thing up into commercials. They'll run in every state in the union.
Just put together all the bites, all the flubs, all the fade outs, all the pauses that went nowhere.
We don't have to edit anything. We could just run this little section here and run that section there and run this section here, and we're in. Yeah.
Done.
They've got a massive problem on their hands. I do question. There's three things that came up last night that I questioned after the debate. Number one was, as we just said, whether he should be on the ticket or not at this point. Is there going to be any serious consideration given to plugging somebody else in? Number two, this administration has made a huge mistake, and it's almost from day one of the administration, and that was in not featuring Kamala Harris, in getting her involved more in this administration.
She looked good last
making
night.
Making her the heir apparent.
Game. Right.
I mean, right now, she's number 3 or 4 on the list of people, maybe even 5 on the list of people that you would say Biden can't do this for whatever reason. We're going to plug in. It's not going to be Harris.
And I don't know who it is going to be. There's not 5 choices. Not counting her, there's not 5 other people. I know Gavin Newsom is one of your favorites, but he said last night that he thought it was a bad idea.
Well, Yeah, I mean, he just seems to me to have a national profile. He seemed to be somebody that was upping his national profile. Um,
And
I
he
don't
brings the
know,
West. He brings the
who
West with
else.
him.
There's the governor of Maryland, but I don't know that was it Wes Moore. I don't know that he's ready for prime time yet.
I thought he was a Republican running for the Senate.
No, the one before him was the Republican. Larry is it Dolan?
Melman, Larry Melman.
Larry Bud Millman, yeah. Um, but I don't. There's you know, listen. Right now, the Democrats' biggest hope in the world is for to get Liz Cheney to become an independent or switch parties and run her.
The damage control is a dream. There's no way this is going to go away. There's no way that this impression made before the largest debate audience ever is going to fade, and people are going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh,
He looked bloody awful. He didn't look well. He looked slack jawed. He looked unfocused. He looked unprepared. He looked unable to finish his sentences. He looked unable to debate. He couldn't catch any of Trump's lies and throw them back at him. He couldn't attack. He called him a whiner 3 times. A whiner? He's a whiner? That's what you came up with at Camp David? This was the approach that you've got to characterize Donald Trump as unfit to serve? A whiner? You're such a whiner.
yeah. It was a sad and what even makes it worse this morning is I'm watching out of one corner of my eye him standing up on the podium at this rally, and he looks like the Joe we saw at the State of the Union. I mean, so it even opens up the door more for what the fuck happened last night.
And here's something that more than one real pro brought up last night. You had one job, one thing, one element of your personality had to come through. You had to be forceful, you had to be on top of it, you had to be quick, you had to be Joe, you had to be energetic, you had to be all those things. You had to put down the idea that you were too old to do this job. And instead, a total, complete nightmare where every element of his delivery was a mess, was creating the impression, the exact impression he didn't want to create. Indelibly across all the channels, across all the networks last night. How many millions of people tuned in and saw that and said, "I don't have to see the rest of this.
Yeah,
I don't
I
have
know.
to.
I
I
know.
don't need.
Five,
I
six
don't need
people
90
turned it
minutes."
off. I spoke to five of my friends between last night or texted and tonight, and I turned it off. I
And
watched.
to
I,
write it
I,
off
I
saying,
couldn't
"Well,
watch
he got
it.
a slow start." A slow start? You call that a slow start? That is what.
Well, they
That's
had a
what the
slow
Titanic
start,
looked like.
a reversing middle, and a disastrous finish. I mean,
I
there were times where we were sitting on the couch and watching it, and you couldn't understand what he was saying.
I know. I was saying, what is he? What did he just say? What was that phrase? I can't make out what he's talking about. I can't get the words. It doesn't make sense to me. He's not. He's not scanning. He was unaware of it. Just mumbling to the end, and he would just trail off. And then you say, "Are you finished with your comments? Are you? Have you finished talking? Are you with
Yeah.
me?"
And then the worst is when he would finish early. And I mean, Trump did it too, to a lesser degree,
Yeah, 50 seconds.
where he left a minute on the clock, 50 seconds on
And
the clock.
they'd
And
have to,
Trump, to be fair, Trump did it too, a couple of
they had to
times.
re-ask the
But
question a number of times. One technique that Trump used that worked for him is regardless of the question, he would say, "Let me just finish up on what Biden was saying. Let me just make one more comment," where he would
yeah,
go into his lies about the border and killing babies after they've been born, and no one was catching him on it. No one called him on it. They didn't re-ask the question often enough. Trump had
Yeah,
a reasonably bad showing, but compared to Biden, at least he looked alive. He looked as
well,
if he
that
was
was it.
actually.
It was yeah. If somebody's murdering somebody in front of you, you don't pay attention to the robbery that's happening half a block away.
Right.
I mean, it
And this
was.
and this idea that it's somehow going to be this is going to be overcome, and Joe's going to be Joe and do what he has to do and go to a rally in New York, and it's all going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. This is a
No,
tragedy for the party.
they're not gonna forget this, and the Trump campaign is not gonna let them forget it. And if I were in the Trump campaign, I wouldn't let them forget it.
Now, the Democrats are going to be in Chicago. The Republicans are going to be in Milwaukee. Republicans don't really need much of a convention. They have to choose a vice president, but that's about all they have between them and the election. But the Democrats, if they go to war over this, could have a divided party at the convention in Chicago one more time. We've had some troubles in Chicago before. Why the Democrats would ever go back to Chicago, by the way, is a question that I need answering. That doesn't make good sense to me. But there they are,
Yeah,
back where
yeah.
the whole world was watching. Well, the whole world is going to be watching this convention, and it could be all the procedural niceties that usually happen. Nothing ever happens at a convention anymore. When you and I were kids, conventions were where things were
Things happen.
decided in the back room, but not anymore. Well, this convention could land
Yeah,
us
because you
in
can't
a lot
imagine
of hot
that
water.
I mean, there was already trouble in River City with the whole Palestinian Israeli war thing going on with the Israel
Right.
Hamas war. There was already going to be some stuff going on.
At least
There
some
was already a
speeches.
lot of people who are not going to vote for Biden because of that, and wanted to try to throw the convention into chaos. Now you have a whole new contingent of people, and I would suggest that many of these people are money people who are saying, "Wait a second,
Not
if I
me.
want to get rid of my money, I just put it in a furnace and burn it."
Speaking of money people, there's a meeting going on in Aspen, Colorado right now with the CEOs of all the major companies. The guys who
Yeah,
founded PayPal, the guys who are putting together. CEOs from all over the world and all over the nation are in Aspen. And they had, of course, there's a lot of press coverage there. And they were asked, what did you think of the performance last night? And the result was nobody would hire an employee that was that far out of focus. Nobody would
yeah.
hire an employee that lied like Donald Trump. Neither of these guys could get a job at a Fortune 500 company, but that's your choice for president. And their own performance brought about this conclusion that neither, with no exceptions, none of the CEOs, even the ones who were voting for Trump now, would hire him because he's a felon, or hire Joe Biden because he seems to be as unfocused and as ill prepared to take on the pressures and the job of the president than anybody in history.
Well,
And
it's funny
how do we
because
get in such a mess? Well, he must have had days like this before. They must have known there was a chance. Like every 10 days, Joe has a bad day and we can't really keep the president on track.
it makes you doubt anybody who has gone on TV in the last month or 2 months and said, I was with the president, and you really got to see him when he's when he's working. I mean, he's in there, he's drinking coffee, and he's getting this done and getting that done and running around. I don't know how you
No.
how you can possibly now
Why
try
should
to
I
sell
believe that
that notion to anybody.
when after a week of preparation, that's what you got? That's what you got after a week of going up against phony Trumps in your debate preparation.
I mean, that looked
Impossible
like
to
a week
believe.
of preparation for me in a math test in third grade. That's about the result you got from that. But again, we're regurgitating what what America knows right now. I mean, I don't know. The Democrats can stand there and they could say whatever they want. And the faces on the talking heads last night at CNN, more so at MSNBC, it looked like
Was
somebody shot somebody on the set of MSNBC.
well, it was obvious from the beginning. It was
Uh,
obvious from the first question that there were problems.
and so, as you look at these people, yeah, last night their kind of party line was, well, it's one night, it's this, it's that, but we all know that that's a lot of bull.
It was
We
such
all
a
know that
big event.
what's your plan B, right? You got to have a plan B if you're in business, right? If A doesn't work, what are you doing? What's B?
No B.
What's their plan B? Are they meeting on it, or are the people who are backing Biden so powerful in the party that they can't get anybody to even consider the thought? Because you got to consider the thought.
Well, the people who prepared him are the ones that now are defending him. The people who are taking him to New York for another rally and putting him on the campaign trail for the weekend are the same idiots that prepared him for that debate last night. And they must have known from that week in Camp David that he was not able to do it, that he was not able to even meet Trump and fight him on the things that Trump was saying. No
He should
rebuttal
have won that
whatsoever.
debate last night, hands down, man.
It was wide open for attacks, and he couldn't put one together.
He was. It got to be an old man getting beat up on a street corner for his welfare check.
It's in the other pocket.
He just looked at the crowd and said, "With all my heart and soul, I know that I can do this job."
No. Well, here's what came to my mind, and that is, in American politics, if you're the president, you lose, you become a lame duck. But that's after the election. Well, he's a lame duck today. He's a lame duck candidate. Who's going to give him? Who do you think if he came to Hollywood this weekend and asked for that $40 million that he'd get it this time?
No,
You think the people who just paid a fortune to have dinner with him and watch Jimmy Kimmel interview him would support him now? Would Barack Obama get on stage with him and talk about how wonderful it's going to be now?
he's probably one of the only people that would because he's got nothing to lose.
Radio City Music Hall for all the New York money. Those events happened in just a couple months ago, and he didn't act like that. The Biden we saw last night was not the one that showed up when it was time for money, but time for the biggest debate of his career, the biggest statement that the party has made in the last 4 years, the summation of everything that he's done and the attacks on Trump that were so wide open and available to him last night. He not only could he not speak, but he could not hear what was being done. He
Well,
couldn't follow what was going on in the room, and he couldn't react to it. He had
again,
nothing.
again, I go back to so what do we do? So what happens now? So who is the possibility? Who is who is the person that they could go to and say, we need you.
America needs
We
you
need
now.
you to stand up and to run in this race. You know,
Well, there are precious few candidates. I can't think of one. I know
well,
the only one on the
I
list that
got
I can think of is Gavin. You got Gavin Newsom because he's on your list. I don't know if he has national support, but we need
right.
somebody who can
Newsom,
speak and
Joe
who's alive and
Manchin.
well. Joe
Joe
Manchin's not a
Manchin is
Democrat.
another guy that
Joe
even though
Man.
he's declared as an independent, um, you still could run him.
He's taken his organization and funding people running against Democrats. So Joe Manchin's no friend of the party. Joe Manchin's out.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other high-profile Democrats. It's not Schumer. It's not, you think, well, okay, biggest state, but it's not going to be Schumer. It's not going to
Not going to
be
be Pelosi.
Gillibrand.
No, definitely not.
You know, they don't. There's just nobody. I'm thinking. Mitch Landrieu out of New Orleans. I don't think he's got a high enough profile.
And he's a Democrat in the South. That's a bad place to be a Democrat.
Yeah, the other place, the other guy is it the governor of Tennessee? I guess I can't remember. I think he's the governor of Tennessee or Kentucky, Brashear. Um, another guy who has somewhat a little
I
bit
haven't seen
of name recognition.
So the idea that Donald Trump could be our next president is far greater today than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
And that presents us with problems about what country we choose to live in, because it ain't going to be this one.
Yeah, that's no lie, man. The prospect, because you have there's a body of voters out there that and many of them are Republicans, but they can't stand Trump.
It's true.
And you had the opportunity and have the opportunity to swing these voters over to your side if you present them with somebody who is appealing.
And Vinny, this means that the people who don't vote because they're disgusted by the process are going to damage all the down ballot people, the senators,
Well,
the
yeah.
representatives, the mayors, the governors. They're not going to get the vote. And that
Yeah.
means that Trump will have the Senate, the House, and the White House all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, that's exactly what it means. And the idea that abortion, or as they're now phrasing it, women's health, is going to carry the day over what we saw last night.
Well, Joe didn't mention it.
I don't think that's going to work.
Joe never came to the conclusion that he was even going to mention it. He got lost in his thoughts. He didn't make the point at all. He didn't nail it. He didn't make it Trump's problem. He didn't say what the Democrats were going to do. He didn't promise anything. He didn't guarantee the women of America that if they gave him his vote that he would act on their behalf. He did nothing. And abortion was the big element of their campaign. It was supposed to be a major factor, and it turned out to be nothing. It turned out to be unmentionable. Biden didn't know what to say about it. He said nothing. He got stuck on child care. He got stuck on children's rights. He got stuck on so many minor problems. And he would interrupt himself and say, and
no, I'm not going to
way,
call child care or children's rights a minor problem, but he got stuck. He got stuck in. He never touched the issues which I think are going to affect most people, which most people are looking at. You've been handed with women's health. You've been handed with abortions, a golden opportunity.
And you can't get
to
it
beat
out.
them on an issue that they can't touch. That they can't touch. And did he mention it last night?
Did he have any singular response that was organized and cogent and focused and deadly? Did he nail Trump on anything? He did not. And when he tried to get his act going, he would just befuddle himself. He would interrupt himself. He would distract himself. It was ghastly.
Yeah. So again, and my question will be until somebody answers it: what do? They can't.
Well, the Democrats said we can't do that. Oh, we're not going to do that.
Well, they got to figure something out.
not doing that. Joe will be fine tomorrow.
They're either going to have to come out with a statement or something that says that we believe in Biden. He's our guy. What you saw the other night, last night, whatever you want to call it, by the time the statement comes out, was an aberration. Was something that was he was sick. He whatever happened, which I don't think people are going to buy anyway. To be honest with you, because they started floating that one around halfway through the debate last night that he had a cold. So the Democrats, the people that run the party, they got some figuring to do. They got a problem that's bigger than a building, that's bigger than Milwaukee, that's bigger than anything.
It's bigger than Trump.
It's bigger than Trump, yeah. Trump is their number 2 problem right now. You have somebody who, and listen, you can tell me I'm overreacting. You can tell me that I'm this. I'm not. You have a large number of people who saw that debate last night and are saying, I'm not sending this guy my $25. I'm not sending this guy my $15.
How can you trust him for the rest of his term? What's the rest of his term going to be like? What have his phone calls with Netanyahu been like? Like that? What was his speech like at the G7 behind doors? Like that? Is that how he was speaking to the leaders of the world? What about his meeting with the Chinese leader in San Francisco? What did that go like? Did he have his act together, or was that Joe Biden at that meeting?
Well, I would think that he had. I mean, we didn't hear anything horrible out of those meetings, except what was the thing that Trump was saying about that he walked the wrong way or something like that, which I don't know. I find plenty of people walk the wrong way. I'm not gonna put the guy on blast for walking the wrong way or doing something like that. But looking like you're lost. Looking like you're lost is a whole nother thing. Looking like you're lost is not right.
It's something that become an increasing problem. It's not a minor problem or a one-time problem. It's become an increasing problem. And last night I see right into it.
I see a couple of comments. One guy, Mark, a longtime listener of ours, says Bernie. I think that boat has sailed. I mean, Bernie's how old?
Well, he's got his act together, comparatively speaking. And he's a kid from New York. He doesn't take guff from Donald Trump and let him get away with it.
Well, yeah, but the problem of age has been presented. The problem of age has now been put out there. So, and listen, don't, for the Trump people who are all jumping up and down in glee, this isn't that far away from your candidate either. Don't think that Trump is immune to having a moment like this. I mean, here's the guy
show because he was so focused. But
Trump courtroom 3 weeks ago.
Trump came apart because everything he said was a half truth or a lie. And that's where and he got away with it because Biden was so far off the chart in the soup.
Right, and no fact checkers in the room, no campaign staff in the room, nobody to sit there and tell you that's a lie, that's not a lie, that's good, that's bad,
Nothing.
Which is what the Biden campaign wanted.
And Biden was unable to focus his response on any topic. He never nailed Trump on any of his lies. He would start his phrase by saying, that's all a complete lie. But there's no facts behind it. There's no attack that goes with it. There's no name calling and toughness showing the presidential side of him to show what he thought of that idea, that lie, that distortion. No comeback. No tough guy routine. No debate.
Yeah.
No points made.
No, Michael. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. It was the worst. It was, you know, many times people ask the rhetorical question, "What's the worst that could happen?" Well,
There you
you
go.
saw it last night.
We thought that Dick Nixon had a bad campaign with Kennedy because he was sweating. Well, he did sweat, and he did have a hard night, and he did lose the debate and he lost the election too, as a matter of fact, by inches. But nothing like this. We've never seen a debate performance like this. We've never seen somebody just not show up, just not ever get into the swing of things. That supposedly was prepared by the best people for a week and came up with nothing. No presentation whatsoever. No facts. No patent answers. No attacks. No accusations.
Well,
No
yeah,
promises. Nothing.
um, yeah. It was a disaster. It was the worst thing that could happen to the Biden campaign last night. It was because it it's eroding support of people who previously supported him,
And if
and
Trump
all of a
wins, you
sudden,
can you can lay the problem right at the feet of the guys who are working with Biden every day, the people who are
uh,
behind his campaign, the
well,
people
yeah,
who are
you had
behind
to
his
see that.
preparation.
I mean, don't tell me you couldn't see that coming. Don't
It
tell me
had to
you're
be
working with a
obviously.
guy, and it's not just, I mean, it's a group of people. I mean, what did he look like in the prep? I mean, they ran mock debates. Did he couldn't have looked like that in the debates. They would have never let him go out there. He couldn't have looked like that in the debates. There would have been no way that they ever would have let him go out there. They would have come up with some kind of sickness, some kind of disease, some kind of excuse for him not to show up.
The president has diphtheria. We'll reschedule for next week. Everything's going to be fine. Our apologies to the Trump campaign.
But again, I lay it squarely at the feet of the Democrats. This is not a something that Trump forced. This is not something. This because again, not only do you have Biden going out there and screwing up, but you've got no plan B. I mean, whether you like Kamala Harris or you don't like Kamala Harris, you could make a case that they have not featured her. They have not done much, if not anything, to make her look like a vice president or presidential.
Presidential is the word. There you go. Yeah.
They've done. When is there a moment that you've seen Kamala Harris look presidential?
Not that those guys last night looked presidential. Who among the two on the stage last night looked like a president?
Neither of them.
Neither of
Neither
them,
of them.
exactly.
Jake Tapper looked more presidential than either one of those guys.
And I don't want to hear. I'm going to hear it the rest of the day. I know I'm going to hear it. It's going to be recycled. But the idea that he started slow and got better is bullshit. The idea
He
that he
didn't
finished
get
the
better,
evening strong,
Michael. He didn't.
he didn't get better. He started
He
strong
didn't
and he
get
went
better.
nowhere.
He didn't get better. He didn't recover. He didn't come back. He didn't get stronger. He didn't get anything. He started low and he stayed at the same level. The only thing that you could possibly say is that he didn't get worse
I just
than
got
he
the
was at
text.
the open.
Hi, Gavin Newsom here. I humbly ask if I can convince you to make a donation to the Democratic National Committee. I'm begging you. Can you give Joe some money? We gotta buy some pep pills for him, and we don't know where to get them. Where do you get speed in Chicago, Vinny? Do you know?
No, I
Reliable
don't.
dealer?
I I'm just looking for. I got a bunch of texts between last night and this morning. Um, yeah, I don't get. Yeah, I don't seem to be getting a lot of. Hi, friend, it's Jill. Joe is facing off against Donald Trump right now.
So the problems that we've had as a nation, the problems that we've had as a country, the problems that we've had to fight against in terms of disunity and lies and all the alternate versions of reality that we deal with every day because of Donald Trump, those things are going to become dominant. We're going to be the minority. The truth will become the minority. The New York Times will become irrelevant. MSNBC will be taken off the air. Control of thought, control of news, control of your attitude, control of your response, control of getting into the streets to protest against Donald Trump. All those things will be called into question. The Supreme Court will have two more new members. It'll be an 8-2, an 8-1 majority. There will be no way to reclaim sensibility and civic pride and the freedom to be as you are today. Everything that you know about reality and law will be called into question.
He said, "We'll put the baby aside."
And that's coming because this guy couldn't debate last night. How can he beat Trump? I wonder.
They fundament. I mean, they have a plan. Do the Republicans called Project 25, which will, in essence, change the structure of our government. That will, in essence, change us into a state where the president controls way more of the government than he possibly can now. It will take
checks and balances be gone.
Well, no, but what you're going to do is they're going to replace regular civil service workers, people that you have to take a test and get on, and you're a permanent employee. They're going to replace many of those, hundreds of thousands of those, with political appointees. That's part of, maybe that's the so people will serve at the whim and fancy of the president. They're going to change the funding so that the president controls much more of the funding and he doesn't have to go through Congress to get it done.
And it won't be called the Justice Department anymore. It'll be called the Prosecution Department.
They're going to give the president control of the Justice Department. So far, the Justice Department is an independent arm of the government that's not supposed to be influenced by the president. I don't know how true that is or not. I don't buy the claims that Biden was out there influencing the Justice Department to go after Trump. But listen, let's face it: the guys in the Justice Department know what the boss wants. So in that respect, they're going to eliminate, I forget, at least two of the cabinet positions.
Education
will certainly get whacked because you can't have a country, a democracy, if you don't have education.
And through influence and pressure and financial constraints, they'll be able to shut down the major universities that are educating the liberal elite, and they will be done with that.
It's simple. You can't have a democracy if you don't have educated people. It's like sixth grade civics.
Yep. You won't need that either.
No, you won't need any civic.
No, there won't be any need to study what once was.
You won't need anything. You'll need You know, all you'll need is people to dress up in school uniforms, pledge allegiance to the flag, recite the 10 Commandments in the morning, and then listen to whatever dogma that the government wants to put in their school books. You'll never learn about slavery. You'll never learn about the wrong things that this country did. You'll only learn that you'll have your education up until the 6th grade, where you believe that everyone was created equal, and all of this other stuff that they like to teach you before they get down to the serious stuff. The stuff that Ron DeSantis stays up nights reading books so that he can, or has somebody read them to him, so that he can ban them from his state libraries in the state of Florida.
So we got 138 days or so, less than 140 days for the election. There's not enough time to fix what happened last night. The impression is indelible.
Well, I'm not going to say there's not enough time. I do agree that the impression is indelible, but if I'm running the Democratic Party right now, I'm going to one of those nice resorts in West Virginia where they have the bunkers and the lockers and stuff. What is it, Greenbrier? And I'm getting all the smartest people in the Democratic Party together. I'm getting the contributors, and I'm getting the smart people that we have in the party, and I'm getting the Lawrence tribes and those people that know the law and I'm putting them all together in a room, and I'm saying we're not leaving this room until we figure this out.
Who's the chairman of the Democratic Party right now? I can't even remember.
Boy, it's I can't remember.
He's got his hands full. He or she has their hands full right now.
Well, yeah.
Compared with other chews, one Rebecca chew
it's
nearly 3 times longer.
Used with caution in dogs with a history of seizures and neurological disorders. Protecting the glass.
It is.
There's this thing called age.
Yeah, Jamie Harrison is the head of the DNC.
It's restored my joints without just temporarily masking.
So,
and without scary side effects. When you can find a product that can take that away to the point that you can live your life.
We haven't discussed it.
Mr. Harrison has to.
I'm worried about the future that my children and grandchildren are going to inherit as a result of the fuck up from last night. The fact that the total, complete, systematic failure ushered Donald Trump into the White House when we had a chance to beat him. We gave him the election based on that performance last night.
Well, I'm not so convinced that he would have lost anyway. I don't know. I mean, it certainly didn't help. I don't know that I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I know to believe that the Democrats better not sit around pissing and moaning with each other. Oh my God, did you see what happened last night? They better figure something out. They better figure something out by next weekend.
Take those millions of dollars they just got in Hollywood and make some commercials that make sense.
Well, I don't even think it's about commercials. It's you gotta make the toughest decision in the world. You have the toughest decision in the world. You gotta come up with another candidate, and you gotta reel in the extreme left of the party. You can't have a scene in Chicago where the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian people get spotlighted. They don't have a place at the table right now.
one of the elements that I couldn't believe last night was they talked about Barack Obama when he tanked his first debate with Mitt Romney, was not under the impression that he lost. He had to be told 2 days after the effect that he lost that debate and had actually bombed, had done a terrible job. He was under the impression that he had done well.
No.
And it took 2 days to tell him that he didn't. This tells you about the people that are around the emperor and why the emperor has no clothes. There's nobody speaking truth to power. There's nobody telling the truth to these men. There's nobody being reasonable when everyone else is saying, you did a great job. You're just the guy we need.
I got a feeling that Joe knows what he did last night. I will give Biden enough credit that he knows what his performance was last night. That he knows what he did.
He'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around for a while. He knows when he had a hit. He knows when he had a strikeout. And it was pretty easy to see last night that it was a strikeout. Wasn't hard to see. If Mr. and Mr. Average American were able to see it, I'm sure Joe could see it.
And the third strike was called. No swing.
No, he whiffed. No, he swung. He swung at all three. That wasn't a call strike because it wasn't even close. That was boom, boom, boom. He tried to hit for the fences, and he didn't come anywhere near it.
Well, the story that I'm getting is across America, Democrats are saying, what are we going to do? And the party's saying, we're great, we're good, we're just where we need to be. He had a bad night, he had a slow start, he had a big finish. We're good, we're down. We got campaigns to do today. We got places to go. We got this under control. Damage control.
Well, I don't much care what they're saying in public. I mean, I don't think they're going to come out and say, we're throwing Joe Biden off the ticket today. I mean, he's the president. So they're not, you don't want them coming out and saying that. If the Republicans did it, we'd call them crazy. No. Right now you act as if everything is okay, but behind closed doors, you are rallying the generals. And you are saying, what are we going to do? What do we do here? And you get the biggest and the brightest minds that you have available to you to tell you. Trump has manhandled this country.
Yep.
Last night he manhandled Joe Biden without even having to lift a finger.
Yep.
He didn't have to swing.
Didn't have to sweat.
He beat him up, and he didn't have to throw a punch.
He didn't come up with any new ideas, any new statements, any new promises. It's just all the old garbage, and it worked beautifully.
He didn't have to. His stupidity served him well last night.
Yeah, you're right. He wasn't actually aware of what was going on to the point where he just did his usual routine.
His stupidity, being stupid last night, and I mean stupid. I mean, I don't think that Donald Trump is stupid he's street smart. But I don't think that he didn't have to do much last night. All he had to do is show up and keep his mouth shut and not make it look like he was beating up on an old guy. That's all he had to do. And he did it. He was surprisingly calm. Surprisingly stood there and he made his faces and told his lies.
An unbelievable amount of lies, an unbelievable amount, which didn't even
How,
make the
how,
headlines.
how would you not believe if he told you a lie every second that he stood on that stage? How would you not believe that? It's totally believable. I mean, all the guy does is lie. He lies to everybody. He lies to anybody he can. He could possibly be the most untruthful human being that's ever lived.
I'm
Very
more
possible.
depressed now than I was last night. I'm more depressed about this than I was before we started talking. I thought we could talk it out and come to some conclusion, but there's no fix for this. The Democrats aren't prepared to fix it. American politics are such that there is no quick fix. So we're going to run a
Yeah,
guy who can't find his way out of the room. He can't find his way past the lectern. He can't find his way. Doesn't know what to say or where to put the microphone after his speech at the after party. It's worse than I thought. I thought it was a factor. I thought it was a negative. But after seeing last night, it's far worse than I thought.
I wonder. I don't think this will happen. But I wonder if there will be a phone call placed to an Oprah Winfrey, either to get her idea on would she be interested, but also to get her thoughts on what we do here. I mean, she's one of those people who you got to put in that room, and you got to say, what do you think? How could we? How, in your view, would we negotiate out of this? How would we get out of this? What would we do?
Well, I think there's probably rules and regulations within the Democratic Party regarding candidates that would allow this. Biden would have to free up his committed delegates. But if he wanted to fight, how would he win a fight like that?
Well,
If the party says you're not the candidate anymore, and he wanted to fight about it, it could get really ugly. We'd have two Democratic
well, yeah,
candidates.
and that's what you want to avoid. What you want to avoid, I think, Michael, is going to Milwaukee, going to Chicago, and having an open convention. Having a convention where enough people have been sent there as Biden delegates, but say, I don't want to vote for him. And I can easily see that happening.
How about a moderate Republican running with Kamala Harris? A moderate Republican would take votes from Trump, run as an independent with a Democratic vice president.
Well, there you go, Liz Cheney, Adam Kitzinger. You know, I mean, now you open up the realm a little bit more. Now you open up the ideas.
Pandora's box is open and empty. Everything got out.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time somebody switched parties and run for president. Now it's never gotten past the primary level, I don't think. But there are, again, you have if you go for a tried and true politician, you have Joe Manchin. If you go for you have Mitt Romney. You have Liz Cheney.
It's funny, somebody said last night Mitt Romney looks pretty good right now as a candidate.
Yeah. I mean, you have somebody, you have a number of people out there that if you want to forego the party line and say it is in our interest for, I mean, it would be a radical move.
Well, I think that's what's required right now.
But yeah, I think you're in a radical situation.
If you're gonna play the hand that you have right now, you're gonna lose by 10 points, and that's being generous.
More than that, yeah.
Many cases were ushered in by the police, and as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility.
It's yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. It's unreal that we're in this position as a country when we should be in a position to assume leadership of this world, to be a country that has so much going for it, leading by example.
How do you think the army in Ukraine feels today? How do you think the liberals in Israel that wanted to give it to Netanyahu feel today? How do you think they feel in California? All these people are watching their hopes sink. They're watching the world change before their eyes. They're watching the worst possible outcome take place.
How do you think people on Obamacare feel today, who may not even know it, but Obamacare expires in 2025? They're going to have to reapprove it.
That would be next year.
Yeah. How do you think they feel today? Myself included.
How would you like to be a Democratic candidate running for the House of Representatives or for the Senate right now in any state in the union? Your support, your money, your all your advantages, all the things you were going to say suddenly come into question. And there goes the Senate, there goes the House, there goes the White House in one fell swoop.
The party is in trouble right now. They can brush by it on television. They can not acknowledge it. They can, but I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you that the party is in trouble this morning.
They have the most members, they have the most votes, and they got nothing. They're weak by being the majority.
And they need to do something. I think, and this is just my own humble opinion, they need to do something that will be more memorable than what we saw last night. That's what you need to do. You need to make a splash move, as they say in baseball.
And if you know you have a candidate that can't win, why are you backing that candidate and pretending that you can win?
Well, that's just it.
Why are you lying to yourself?
I think it's obvious that people are going to stop backing that candidate. That people are going to start to say, we can't back this guy.
I can't come to any other conclusion but to agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously that's where the rubber's going to hit the road, Michael, because that's where, when it all comes down to it, that's where the money is. Right?
Well, Vinnie, I'm disgusted. I'm afraid it's time to go.
Well, Michael, I don't want you to be.
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with the outcome.
Yeah, I'm saddened. But I'm also trying to figure out what you do. You know, trying to think if I were in that, if I were Jaime Harrison, Jamie Harrison, what would I be doing this morning? After I picked my head up out of your crying towel, would I be looking for the Mikey and Vinnie prayer towel so that I can come up with something to save the day?
Mikey and Vinnie prayer towel, the prayers have been preloaded, so you don't have to do any praying of your own. Just put the towel on the radio and you're in good shape.
Yeah, we give you 30 days free prayers with the towel.
They're preloaded. You can use them as often as you want. They're your prayers to use as you wish.
Yeah, just pray well, and we accept many different languages too. You can pray in any language.
Also, we expect if you only have Turkish money or Greek money or Yugoslavian money or euros, we accept all that. We'll transfer it here at the Mikey and Vinnie money changing office.
Well, we gotta, next week we gotta do a little report from Spolpakia. We haven't checked in on our friends in that fine country lately.
They're doing their presidential debates next week at Spolpakia. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yet, yeah, they were actually. I read a thing when they were watching last night's debate to see how to do it.
They have a combination debate and whack-a-mole. If you get the question wrong, you get hit with a big mallet. But it's not a metal mallet; it's a wooden mallet. So there's not a lot of damage done. There's not permanent cranial damage inflicted by the wooden hammer. It's a mallet, not a hammer. Don't get so excited.
What are your Giants doing this weekend?
They'll try and become a 500. My disgust for the Giants has been diluted so much by my disgust for the political situation in this country.
Yeah, I know
The
what you
Giants
mean.
had a chance to win in extra innings last night, but their reliever came up a home run. First guy up got a single, second guy up got a home run, and that is the way you walk off in San Francisco if you're the Chicago Cubs. We won 2 out of 3 with the Cubbies, but we could have won them all.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. I mean, listen, 2 out of 3 in a road series. That was a road series, wasn't it?
No, they were playing in San Francisco.
Oh, they're in San Francisco. For some reason, I thought it was. Oh, you know what? I got it mixed up with the Mets. The Mets played the Cubs in Chicago the series before that. All right. Well, as I always say, Michael, I always leave you with this thought. Lee Mazzilli should have been the MVP of the 1979 All-Star Game, and you'll never tell me anything different.
But he wasn't because
they gave it to Dave Parker.
Because he was retiring.
No, Dave Parker hit the home run that put them ahead in extra innings, but Mazzilli drove in the tying run and worked the walkout. No, he drove in the last 2. No, he tied. Excuse me. He started the rally that drove in the run that tied the game, and then he also scored the winning run, I believe. Both of them, actually, I think, by working out a walk.
Did he prepare for that game at Camp David for a week?
He was spectacular in that game, man. He was the Mets' only representative in 1979, I believe. Maybe Stearns was with them, too. I forget. That was played right here at the Kingdome. Former home of your Seattle Mariners.
I remember the Kingdome looked like a terrible place to play ball, and then we had an opportunity at KJ. I remember we had the field for one day. We had batting practice, and we played all around. And the visibility for fly balls is worse on the field than it is from the stands. In the stands, you can see the ball go up and out. But in the actual Kingdome, when a fly ball would go to the outfield, you just lost it in the lights and the reflection and the light ceiling. It was the most horrible, horrible feeling to say, are you telling me professional outfielders have to put up with this every time there's a fly ball?
It really made you understand how great Griffey was.
It made me understand that the guy who built the Kingdome had no idea what it was going to be used for. Had no clue whatsoever they were going to play baseball there.
He thought he was building a train yard.
We're going to have big trucks run over dirt berms and funny cars.
He thought he was building an addition to King Street Station. If you looked, it had a hump in it so that the cars could roll down to their different trains. All right,
Have a
man.
good show tomorrow, Vinny. Have
Thank
a good
you.
show
We
at 11
will,
o'clock
we
tomorrow.
will have a good show at 11 tomorrow. We will be talking about a bunch of automotive stuff and an update on the Belltown Hellcat. We'll have an update
We'll
on
get
it.
him, Hellcat. I love
The
the name of
Belltown
that.
Hellcat. All right, Mikey.
All right,
Stay away
Vinny.
from the television set over the weekend, and I'll see you Monday if the Lord's willing. The creek don't rise.
The creek is already. The Lord was not willing. The creek's a mess, and we're in trouble. We're
Well,
in
in
deep
that
shit.
case, go grab you some peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine. What a whiner. You're such a whiner.
See you, Mikey. Thank you all for listening, too. Appreciate it as always.